Are we live? And ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are live again. How's everybody doing on this excellent Friday, July 17th, 2026? And I hope everybody's doing well on this Friday. And I tell you, I owe you guys an apology right away. I had wanted to put the umbrella, I wanted to open an umbrella so everything be a little shadier for you. And it blew out of the mast step, the little hole in the ground. And it did it enough times that I felt I ought to just, ought kind of bundle it up and put it away. So that's what we did. So anyway, what I because it is Friday, and guys know what happened yesterday, last night, right? Did you happen to see or watch or not see, but see or hear uh, the president's speech last night? If you did, please God, let me know. Call in, and I'll even set the make sure the call in number is ready to go. Yes, we are 949-629-3820. And like I said, let us know what you thought about last night. Uh, I did a little thing that I can tell you what it made me think of. And this is your lucky day because actually, it's not my lucky day. It might be your lucky day where things are. There we go. So we'll give you our perspective on what can be generously called a pack of lies or bull skate or pick your name your choice. But I think for right now, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let you know my response to this to the speech last night, and it came to me in a vision, like all good things do. And I had been in my mind for whatever reason. I had been hearing the Talking Heads, Psycho Killer. I used to say that for Halloween, but for some reason it's been in my mind, and I'm glad it was because it led me to do this. Psycho Donald. Here it is. I think here it is. You worthless.
Trump can't see the face after the fact. Iran's got to spy the old nutsack. His policies put the world on fire. Can't count anything, his brain is fried. Psycho Donald, qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa 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 fa. Better run, 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 run away. Psycho Donald, qu'est-ce que c'est?
So, guys, I guess you figured out that was called Psycho Donald, and I'm gonna tell you after I didn't need any convincing that the guy was crazy. I believed this a long time ago, and what the transition is between absolutely crazy and complete psycho, I don't know. I can't imagine being in the dark recess, what goes on in the dark recesses of that primitively undeveloped brain he has. Tells him. Um, but what I do have to tell you is, if you watched last night, and I did, and I'm gonna be the first one to admit this, I kind of looked at this like an ignorant person would look at the Darlington 500 or Talladega or no Darlington 400, the Daytona 500 and Talladega. Okay, those are three big super speedways, and you usually there's always the big wreck. You're coming down to 20, 30 laps to go when everyone's getting a little patient, been a long day, you've been hot, sweaty in this car. You end up when those guys need to pee. It's not like they stop the car and go to the men's room. They just pee right then and there, and oh well, the crew will deal with it. And that's it's kind of worked well for a long time. Uh, but anyway, the analogy I'm trying to draw is that there's some people that go to those races to wait for the big one, the big wreck, like those 15 and 20 car pileups going into turn number one, or maybe coming out of turn four, head for the finish line, and the big one is going to happen, and that's kind of how I look at presidential performances. I just kind of wait for them to crash and burn. But I'll tell you, last night was I'm going to tell you something. Not only did he say a lot about about his topics, but it's what he didn't say that spoke volumes. Okay, I mean volumes. And just to make sure you guys heard that, I think it started out something like Trump can't seem to face up to the facts. No. Iran's got us by the old nut sack. And that's, so, but was there one word mentioned about Iran or housing or anything that might not be in the president's favor? And it ain't much in his favor. That's why they have to lie like they do and misstate. And, I'm going to tell you, I finally appreciate the difference between a misstatement and a lie. And, a misstatement, you probably don't have the intent to lie. But when you downright lie, it's pretty much evidence that your intent is coming through. So what I'm and but I tell you, before we get too terribly serious, you know how we are around here. Uh, and as you know, guys know how much I love the New York Times, right? I have seen two of the funniest headlines, or at least one of the funniest headlines, and I just can't let this go unmentioned. And how about this? And this is a true story from the 14th. Uh, the Dutch, like Holland, Netherlands, Dutch try to interest buyers in a mountain of manure. And I'm like, God, we've got a really big one in DC. I mean, boy, you don't have to get it from the Netherlands. Hell, we got a mountain of manure. I'd be happy to sell you, and I'm sure a lot of people would be willing to pay the freight on that to get them out of the country. So anyway, I thought that was a really great headline that warranted a little shout out there. So guys know, in my opinion, the New York Times is the newspaper of the United States. And you can call it whatever you want. Fact of the matter is, those guys do great reporting. They have great reporters all over the world, and and if you do not believe they're credible, tell me who you think is, and I'll listen to you. 949-629-3820. If there's a favorite news source you have, let us know. I'd be curious to see where you get your information, because nowadays it really does depend on where you get or who provides the news, or who provides the distortion, or who provides the you guys get where I'm going with this. And in the and I didn't go through the New York Times to any great degree today, because the speech is something I want to cover, and we're expecting a guest, Lisa Ramirez. Lisa ran unsuccessfully for Congress from District 40, and what I had asked her to come on and talk about was, what did you learn? What was it like? What was, just tell me the whole experience, because if you're listening to me, you've got some interest in politics, and U.S. House is a really fine place to start. I mean, that's being really ambitious. And when you think about it, there are, what, 435 congressmen and women. I don't know what the proper word is, but there's 435 of them, and that's and out of a nation of 340 million, 435. And you think that's pretty exclusive, and then you think about the Senate, 100, only 100 people get to do this. Um, so it's just a staggering situation when you have the president doing what he's doing. But the Financial Times headline that I want to mention today, and I'm going to tell you that there's a sequence to this, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But this was the headline: China startup Moonshot set to cut U.S. lead in front in the frontier of artificial intelligence. Now, I'm going to let you just kind of ponder that. That's the New York Times or the Financial Times saying that we're getting ready to be overtaken, okay, by China in the AI department. And what does that bring up, any memories for you guys? Does that make you think of, oh, I don't know, of all the research grants that get canceled? and all the great scientists that left the states, some for China, or to go home or pursue other attractive offers. We had the best because we were able to offer the most. Uh, but you see, Trump is too much of a narcissist. He wants to extract every penny he can from everybody at every, and he doesn't care what the expense is. He just wants the money. Uh, and it's really funny. He made $2 billion last year on the side as president. I would suggest that means that he probably wasn't president the whole time. I would speculate that there was more than enough time. How about pumping and dumping stocks? How about if you buy a little, oh, I don't know, pick one, SpaceX. You buy a little SpaceX, and a day or two, you go, we're getting ready to award SpaceX this huge contract. So what happens? People rush in to buy, and the price goes up. So that's the pump up, and you know what comes after the pump? That's right, the dump. That's when everybody's just throwing money at you, and you go, "Well, I'll just take this and go home." And of course, the stock sinks into oblivion. I mean, not SpaceX, but anything given thing Trump would be involved with. Uh, Scaramucci had it right. Everything with Trump is like unfinished, and like the East Wing that he just couldn't wait to destroy and tear down. Like the reflecting pool that he couldn't get right after $18 million in no bid contracts to his pool buddy. Let's see, I could, and how about while we're just kind of chatting about things that didn't come up? Let's see. Oh, the Iran war never heard a word about it last night, and my position is that that the president will only talk about things that benefit him. If they're negative to him, he just won't talk about it, which was the case with the Iran war. He conceived of a message of massive Chinese influence, which his own intelligence network just found false. And when I say found false, I'm going to presume that that he had the intent to lie about this. And I always like talking about credibility, and like I say, it comes from the Latin credibilis, means worthy of being believed. And I'm always kind of laughing when I think about Trump in the courtroom and the judge. Of course, you got to let him answer the questions, responsibly. If not, you can the judge can shut him down. Uh, but these guys are just pathological in their belief that anything they do is great and legal, or at least they'll be able to escape legal consequences. And I can only hope that that the Iran war really does call into question, uh, or does resolve the question of competence. I mean, clearly that's no place to be. Now, I'm not saying abandon them. I'm not saying don't help them. But I'm saying we don't need to be, uh, we don't need to destroy their country. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. Yeah, if you want to make friends with people and try to get them to elect somebody else or demonstrate in the streets. Iranians don't have they've got theocracy led by the Ayatollah. And but if you want to get those guys to change horses, then once you try like being nice to them. Yeah, you ever heard that you can always catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar? And I know the flies and the honey and all that are kind of gross, but you get the point. The guy has no idea how to cooperate. He gets dominance. I mean, he thrives on dominance. It's cooperation he doesn't get. That's why I rolled last night uh, when the president's speaking, and he's got all these cabinet officials and high-ranking people, and they have already said in other forums that the 2020 election was clean as a whistle, right? But they can't do that in front of Trump. So every time Trump lies, they applaud and rise, and then they walk outside and go, God, the guy just won't accept that he lost. Um, which is clearly an indication of some sort of mental disease or defect, which would be enough to make him criminally insane. But we really don't want that because if you're really criminally insane, you don't go to prison. And wouldn't that be nice? I just had a thought. What if the orange jumpsuits in prison just so happen to match his orange head? Huh? How about that? Is that not a picture in the making? God, wouldn't that be sweet? But anyway, I don't want to dwell on the misfortunes of others, but yeah. So he's talking for what, half hour or so, and no Iran. And let's see, how long ago was it now? Like April. And again, the guy just has never addressed the nation about it. Um, and we know why, because it's not particularly beneficial. And if it ain't beneficial to Trump, it ain't beneficial to anybody. It's his deal and his only. And you got to love the way Vance is being set up in this one. Here, take him the deal, and by the way, if it doesn't work, it's your fault. The guy's just a weasel. Okay, anyway, never said a word about Rand. Something else that he just refuses to get into is the economic pain felt daily by Americans. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it still cost me over $100 to fill my tank, and it's only like 18 gallons. It's not like I have some monster truck or anything. Uh, and okay, how about housing? I cannot imagine how this resolves itself. Clearly we need more, but how quickly can you build the stuff, and how quickly can you get it sold or maintained somehow? Um, I tell you, I think these like little tiny home communities are clearly the way to go, and I think the first step is uh, uh, to to go look for the functionally homeless that have a skill or a trade or something that, and circumstances got beyond their control and they lost an apartment, they're homeless. So let's find those guys or those women, and let's see if we can't make a modern version of a company town, but one that's run clearly for the benefit of the people, not for the benefit of the company. Have like and of course, if you help people get jobs, they've got a key to put in the door. And if I'm not mistaken, you can get some of these things for like $50,000 more or less, and you don't. Clearly we need volume. We don't need everyone to have a super nice place. This is Southern California. It's not like the weather's brutal, but you need to give someone, I kind of joke about this, but a bathroom and a bed and someplace to eat in between the two. And I think if you did that, we would at least be making a dent. And the big benefit of doing that is the demonstration that we can do something. And we're willing to make a hard choice to improve the quality of life for everybody. And I always, one of my friend's uncles was a real mover and shaker in town. If you want anything done, you went and saw, Mr. Howe. And when Trump just does stuff like this. Oh, so anyway, back to Mr. Howe. So he would always tell me, to understand a problem, and this was a true story. He was an old Southern attorney, and connected like you would not believe. I mean, when he was in World War II, the Cardinal, was it Spellman in New York? Somehow they knew the Spellmans, or Cardinal Spellman, and the Catholic Church got word to him about his son being born before the Navy got to him. So he's a big. They were big deals. But anyway, and his name was Gedney, and Big Gedney, because of course there's a Low Gedney, but Big Gedney's approach was whenever he had a problem, or someone would come into his office, and Big Eddie did criminal defense work, plaintiff work. He never ever represented a corporation, would never represent anyone other than like regular people. Uh, so clearly a principled guy. and he has the Code of Maimonides on his little credenza. And he says, every time somebody comes in, I have a problem. I always look to the Bible first. And then he would say something like, I'm not a particularly religious guy, but it gives me a starting point in history. And you can see the pieces just starting to fall together. And the bigger picture in this is that, and I forgot who said this, but if you're an attorney and you don't know history, you might be a mason or a journeyman. But once you are an attorney with a grasp of history, then you become an artist. And that's the really cool thing. And we want to see some real artistry in this housing uh, dilemma. I mean, and excuse me, isn't that the only two? Doesn't it come down to a real dilemma? Do we house people or not? Uh, and I can imagine the legal problems in this. Let's say you had a tiny home community and in one or and how about like maybe a mile away, you set up a bicycle making factory, and you've got uh it's not hard work. You just need to put these things together and do it right, have some pride and paint and all that, and that necessarily involves tools, and sometimes those tools can be pretty painful. Uh, so, you kind of think twice before you give people with any sort of a tendency toward violence not to give them like a hammer. You know what I mean? I try to never piss off an old guy with a big stick. I had this deathly fear of, like Psycho Donald beating me to death. But anyway, so I'm going to do what Big Edney did, and I'm going to go back to the roots of homelessness, so we can kind of trace the where we are. I mean, it's not like we just woke up and it happened. What had happened was way back when, in the prehistoric time of 1980. That's what, 45, 46 years ago. Not that long ago, right? Depends on your age. So anyway, way back in 1980, well, in 76, Jimmy Carter was the president. And towards the end of his presidency, might have been over a year, the Iranians captured some Americans and won't let them go. And Carter doesn't want to fight them, and he keeps praying and doing all the decent things. And in the meantime, Reagan said, "Those guys better be let loose before I get in office, or else." So of course the Iranians, held on to the hostages until Carter's out of office. So Reagan gets the credit for bringing them home, and so on and so forth. And while people might remember that about Ronald Reagan, and I love the great communicators, spare me, guys. But let me tell you what the great communicator did. And this warm, caring, sensitive human being. I mean, I don't know how all that compassion got in that one body. But anyway, in a stunning fit of just heartlessness, Reagan decides that we, as a country, are going to end all involuntary incarceration in mental hospitals. That means you can't. In the old days, if someone was crazy, you just call whoever it was, and if he was judged to be insane, they put him in the asylum. But so he's going to throw these people out. He's going to close the facility and put these people on the street. And now you would think that most compassionate people would try to have like a place waiting for someone that's going to be on the streets, like maybe some sort of interim something or other, or how about that good government program, Section 8 housing that keeps people housed. Uh, but what's he do? Does he increase the funding for Section 8 housing? No, he cuts it. So you got these, I hesitate to say lunatics, all this, but you got all these former psychiatric patients that were hospitalized, just started on the street with no place to go. And to my way of thinking, that's like, the true definition of homeless. Uh, I said some people just get caught up in a bad decision or bad something, And it's not that easy. It's not that difficult to spiral out of control. Once the debts start piling up and people start calling, and you're always looking over your shoulder. It's just not a healthy situation. But don't worry, because they don't care. And of course, after two terms of Reagan, who do we get? But George Bush Sr. So, and he might have talked about America, those 1,000 points of light. Well, he's right about that. It's just he's not one of them. And I always thought it was a shame when the chief executive of a country doesn't act in accord with the decorum that office should have. I mean, what government job or title would you have to judge that having a UFC fight uh, is on the White House lawn is okay? Where would you do that? Huh? Well, I certainly thought that was a little beneath the dignity of most presidents, but I'm going to tell you something. There's nothing dignified about Trump. You can. I, I I just I reek with desperation when I see we've got to get rid of this guy. And of course, nothing violent or anything, but I do not see anything wrong with having him tried for corruption after he leaves office. But gosh, I'm gonna tell you that you know what last night was about. Last night was about a situation where it's a presidential election or even a major congressional election, and the president sees he's going to lose, right? So what's he do? Gins up something, sends the insurrection act going, just does anything to provoke a little violence. And let's say he goes on to actually lose that election. And he says, I didn't lose it. I'm not leaving. And you're like just incredulous. So I'm going to tell you, I firmly believe that's a distinct possibility. Now, exactly how you get, the Supreme Court has an enforcement arm. I don't know, is that the national sheriffs or something? But can you imagine? And let's say the sheriff does come to, ride to the rescue. What if there's 1,600 recently pardoned Proud Boys defending the White House? Right. And at that point, that's beyond a constitutional crisis. That's full blown uh, treason. And he's really quick to suggest other people be tried for treason. But as we all know, when he mentions something, it's uh, it's usually to benefit him. Okay, so let's see. What else did he? Oh, and you know what else he didn't mention? I'm shocked at this. But can you believe he didn't tell us what a great job ICE was doing? Of course, that conveniently overlooks the killings of the innocent people in Maine and Texas. But guys, in what world does the president have a private police force that hunts down people that may or may not be entitled to be here, and then kills them in the street? I mean, don't think this is anything other than just killing. The guy, the ICE officer, pulled out his gun, shot through the windshield, and killed the guy. Oh, I mean, he wasn't. He was innocent. Not only was he was clearly not the guy you were looking for, and he had whatever relevant papers. And right there, that's kind of foul asking somebody for their papers if they're you know brown skin or whatever it might be. We were beyond all that. And we would still be beyond all that if we'd had some sort of continuity from Joe Biden. Kamala Harris would have been super. I don't tell you, she understood what to pick up and run with. Clearly, she had a was put in an awkward position, and I'm gonna tell you, I really didn't. It didn't matter that much to me because, to me, whenever you voted for Biden, the implication was that you were voting for the Biden Harris ticket. and not just and not just uh, what's called Kamala Harris by herself. So silly me, I was thinking that any Democrat's got to be better than Trump, right? Any Democrat. And what happens? You guys believe the liar again. And you guys, and Kamala Harris told us. She told us what it would be like. And what did we say? No, we know better. Well, I'm going to submit to you that you just may not know better. And keep in mind that if people didn't vote for him, he wouldn't be there. And I'm the first one to tell you he lied to you. You know, he distorted your vote. He distorted everything in the world. But you know what? Doesn't seem like Republicans seem to mind that. Seems like they're pretty easy to get along with. They just, and I think, I don't know how long it takes to house train congressmen, but Trump did it pretty well. I mean, he's got what, 220 represent House representatives that pretty much would clearly kiss his behind in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and and they probably give Trump a week to draw a crowd just to make sure it was a healthy crowd when they kiss his behind. So it doesn't take long to train those guys. They know what side their bread is buttered on, and they know where the money comes from, and they have judged that he was a good gamble. And I'll be the first one to tell you that a fisherman never says his fish stink, but sometimes something's just so odious, something just stinks so badly that the best thing you can do is admit to it and try and express your heartfelt willingness, readiness, inability to change. But all I see is digging in for more of the same. And I don't know how many times you have to double down on a lie uh, before you realize you've only just keep doubling down on a lie. It's not like you make it true. Now that's an old World War II Nazi thing. Who was it? Goebbels or something, minister of propaganda. And his position was if you say something three times verbatim, it becomes the truth. And we see Trump exercising that to an extraordinary degree. He hammers home those same few phrases. And if you're not equipped mentally to analyze, and let's face it, the ability to analyze in anything, the ability to analyze a thought or an argument, or and to see what arguments work, what doesn't work, and who's got the better argument. And that's kind of an acquired skill. And I'll give you an example of something that always makes me laugh when I think about this. But you had Trump on the stand with Stormy Daniels. God bless Stormy. And the prosecuting attorney is asking Stormy something like, did the president meet you in his hotel room at the golf tournament in Lake Tahoe? Yes, he did. What color underwear did he have on? Red underwear. Okay, red underwear. And says, so did you see the defendant naked? Yes, I saw the defendant naked. Did you see the defendant's penis? Yes, I saw the defendant's penis. Did it have any distinguishing marks or characteristics? So she kind of giggles like, well, it leaned and hooked to the left. It looked really weird. So, all right, hooked to the left looks really weird. And so, of course, there's one or two more questions to wrap up from the prosecutor. And he says, well, did you engage in coitus or lovemaking, whatever he said? And Stormy says, yes, we did. And so was the defendant's performance adequate? And and Stormy says, no, it wasn't. Okay, so you got Stormy Daniels, a well-known stripper porn star, on the one hand, and you've got the president of the United States or ex-president of the United States on the other. And this is the thing, this court lies thing about one on each side and with a judge in a little box between them. And the judge gets to look down and he says, okay, I've heard your side of the story, Ms. Daniels. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from the defendant. So Donald Trump gets up there and goes to witness stand. And now keep in mind, he's got to refute. Stormy's put forth the argument that Trump came to her hotel room in Lake Tahoe, was wearing red underwear, had a penis that was a little odd shaped, and they made love to, and it wasn't particularly enjoyable. That's Stormy's argument in a nutshell, right? So Trump could say something like, I wasn't in Lake Tahoe. Sorry, just wasn't there. Or he could say, I was in Lake Tahoe, but I never wear red underwear. I only wear blue underwear. Okay, and he says could say, even if I was in Lake Tahoe, and even if I did wear red underwear, my penis is not crooked. Okay. And then he could say, well, if I was in Lake Tahoe and if I did have red underwear and if my penis was crooked, I was more than adequate in bed. Okay. So that would be some of the ways that Trump would try to counter Stormy's testimony, right? But in his brilliant mind, how does Trump choose to answer or to defend himself against Stormy's testimony? Well, he takes the position that he's never seen this woman before in his life. Okay. Now, like I say, imagine you don't have to imagine yourself being Trump. You don't have to imagine yourself being Stormy, but imagine being like the judge, looking down on these two people, and they've given really different versions of an event. So the question is credibility. Who is worthy of being believed? So what do? We do like Mr. Howard would say, we go back to the beginning and we go, what is Stormy Daniels' propensity to tell the truth? Is she known generally as an honest person? And the answer came back yes. And if you do the same thing for Trump, it comes back hell no. So of course the judge rules against Trump and for Stormy. Now, all that does is make Trump think that he's been treated unfairly. And I don't know about you guys, but I rarely think billionaires are treated unfairly. The truth of it is, God just whines about everything, and yeah, he needs to be in jail because he's broken the law and is a criminal. That's just pretty much how it is. I don't care who's criminal he is. And I would feel that way if he was a Democrat. I certainly don't want anybody messing up the party. I want to keep putting the best foot forward for Democratic candidates all over. That's why I started this. It's exactly why Democracy Radio Network exists. We want to promote grassroots politicians and school board races and city council races. I'm convinced that those are the bonds that you build upon to make a patriot. And keep in mind, these days, of course, everything was innocent way back when, and and I did have a thought about that. Was how do you make someone a patriot? How do you make someone loyal to the country, understanding that the country has done both good and bad, and sometimes really, really bad things. Uh, but we did it, in some mistaken guise or, whatever it was. Or my favorite thing is, how about the old Manifest Destiny? That was when it was the 1840s or so, Horace Greeley, Go West, Young Man. And, when people started to move to the West and, things got a little looser and you had a little more land. And, but anyway, I digress. So we've got we need to make. How do we make patriots? So I'm not in favor of some sort of a formal school indoctrination. What I do think is appropriate. Uh, yeah, I mean, let's say no, no, you know, we don't want to do it like the communists do it. We just want to teach honest patriotism. And like I said, there's people that specialize in childhood development, how to get these ideas across. But I think it would be really beneficial to find some way to unite, or because with Trump there is no, you can only unite against him. And the truth of the matter is, he's just such an obstinate, and you know what he really is? He's incorrigible. You guys know what that means? It means he's not capable of uh, conforming his conduct to societal norms or societal good. He's going to cheat every time he can cheat. It's just what he does. And of course, I'm sure you've heard the deal about the what do you call those? The caddies. I don't play golf. About the caddies at the country club, they call him Pele because he kicks so many balls on the golf course. And those balls that he kicks on the golf course are usually kind of small, white, kind of dimpled. And would you believe? I don't think in the history of golf, I don't think Donald Trump has ever put a ball in the rough. I think that perfection just carries over to everything he does. Don't you? Uh, yeah, right. Like I said, the only thing the guy is perfect at is being a grifter, a snake oil salesman. Uh, I cite the meme coin. I gotta love this. Trump wants to get into crypto because the kids say it's a good deal. So he sets up this exchange called World Liberty Financial, and they buy and sell. They execute buy orders and sell orders for clients. Uh, so what does he do? Right. So he's the perfect. He sets him up as the perfect middleman. He sells the coins. Then when you go to redeem or whatever it is, he gets you on the sell side, on the buy side. The exchange is always going to be there. Your money won't be. And just to show you what a decent guy he is, and he is an incredible businessman, right? I mean, I've got 4 pages of documented failures, and yet I know people that will say they voted for him because they believe he was bad on the economy. I mean, it's just lunacy. And I don't make a whole lot of friends when I do this, but I have started to keep those for that kind of list on my phone. Just a little go-to information. Just when somebody's a little too pious. Okay, guys, you're wearing me out today, and we still haven't heard from Lisa. I don't. I don't know why. But anyway, we'll check in with her and see what the deal is. In the meantime, if you got anything to say, give us a call, 949 And we are here at our secret, undisclosed location on Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, California. And I'm just curious, would anybody got any plans for the weekend? Of course, I'll be getting ready for the show and boning up on all sorts of fun facts to share with you guys. But back to the speech. Uh, there's a reason he didn't mention Iran. There's a reason he didn't mention ICE. There's a reason he didn't mention affordability. And you know what those reasons are? He really doesn't care. The only thing he cares about is him, which is why he only covered the SAVE Act. And doesn't that sound really pious? The SAVE Act. Um, I would hope at about this point, the Senate is waking up to realize that they've been conned for the last few years, at least last year. Uh, it wouldn't surprise me if they're starting to get the message. Things are uh, the Congress is kind of on summer break. People in their home offices, they'll go to the local restaurant or the country club, wherever they go, and they're going to hear an earful. And I doubt it's going to be kind, right? Unless they go to really nice places like Mar-a-Lago, where everybody gets what do you get when you join Mar-a-Lago? You get the access to the president for a couple $1 million. Doesn't that seem a little shady? I mean, there was something else I saw today. Trump was going to make money on. Excuse me. I'll think about it a little bit, but this whole Trump coin this and meme that, and so back to the Bitcoin thing, the crypto. So anyway, let's say somebody bought, I don't know, no true Trump believe. I saw people on TV tell me they believed in the president so bad they put their entire life savings into this. So if somebody put their entire life savings, and let's be generous, let's say $100,000, You saved up. Can you imagine that? You used to work and saved. You got $100,000. And what do you want to do? You, of course, want to make some money with it, all that. So what do? You invest. And, well, who or what do you invest in? Well, that depends on your level of intelligence and sophistication and all that. Uh, you can see. So anyway, so there were a certain group of believers that would follow Trump anywhere. And if Trump ate poopy doo, they'd eat it right. They'd eat twice as much. Uh, so anyway, you got the guy just poopy doo. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So let's say someone puts $100,000 into the Trump meme coin. What could go wrong, right? $100,000. And if he kept that stake today, I think that would be worth $3,640. So he would have lost over 97% of his investment. And where did those gains go? Where did that leftover go when it disappeared? Right into Trump's pocket to World Liberty Financial, because it is a zero sum game. Every trade's going to cancel out somehow. And is that not just despicable? I mean, these aren't, generally speaking, these aren't real sophisticated investors. And there's an accredited investor form from the SEC, and I think it's something like you have to have 250 cash liquidity and net worth of over 2 mil or something before you can invest in these really speculative things. But of course, these days you just enter the buy order on your laptop, and next thing you know, it's filled, and then you just kind of watch it tank. And then that puts the investors in a real bad decision. Do they bail early and admit defeat, or do they hold on thinking it's going to come back? And more people than you can imagine decide to hang on until the meme coin market comes back, and they can recover something. As it stands now, they have 3% of their investment. Three, yeah, can you imagine? And like I said, there were tons of people that did this. And everybody makes fun of this, but if I'm not mistaken, the guy sold like $300,000 worth of Bibles. The only difference was, actually, I think there were three differences. I think it had a copy of the Constitution. I think it had a copy of something else, and then it had Trump as Jesus. So they were going to sell when he did the Trump as Jesus things. And of course, there was a caller the other day, and apparently I tend to irk people. I can't imagine why, but this seemed like a fairly young kid, maybe college age, and was telling me that he's for Trump. I'm like, well, okay, please tell me why. I'm open to your argument. I want to hear what you have to say. And if there's no argument to be made on my side, then you win. So I go, okay. So he says, well, I support Trump because he's a Christian. I'm like, huh? Christian like Jesus Christ? Guy goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, huh? I'm hardly the religious scholar, but if I'm not mistaken, and that I think Jesus might say something like, heal the sick, house the homeless, feed the hungry. I think, and that a little more Jesus than take away somebody's SNAP benefits. And oh, by the way, you really don't need that hospital. There's another one 50 miles away. It'll be okay. And when you get out to West and some of these little communities, I was driving across the country, and I had stopped in Walsenburg, Colorado, because it's just across the New Mexico Colorado border. And I was getting something to eat, and I just passed out just for whatever reason. And it happened twice. So finally, they had to call the EMS. I begged them not to, but I was there in my shorts with California tags in Colorado in a small town, so you can imagine how much authority I had. So anyway, so they take me to this hospital. It's of course a couple blocks away because Walsenburg is not that big, and I was later told that's like the meth capital of Colorado. So anyway, so I go. They take me in my ambulance, and you can't see very much, but what I was able to see was like a garage door open, the ambulance pull in, and then the garage door close. So I swear this was like two or three car garage, with each one had their own door, and those things were like subdivided into emergency beds. So I'm just like, God Almighty, I'll never. This place is really bad. So somehow or other, talking to letting me go, and of course I booked, and it was funny. They told me, he says, if you were smart, you'd turn around and you'd go like through the lower elevations, through like go back through New Mexico and make a right turn, and then go like was it Phoenix and whatever it is on into California. But I'm like, I may never be this way again. So I went up north from Walsenburg on, I think that'd be the 25. And as you go up, there's just before Denver, maybe 30, 40 miles off Denver, I think there starts a Highway 24 that takes you through the backcountry, through places like, actually takes you to Aspen and Leadville and, God, I can't remember all those little towns. But a lot of ski resorts are back there, Durango and Steamboat, and I mean, just a boatload of them. Uh, so anyway, so but my point is, as bad as it was, these people in Walsenburg, Colorado, had some health care available. Is it still there? I wouldn't bet on it. And keep in mind, all the stuff was done. Why? So Trump could have a big tax benefit for his buddies. Keep in mind that, he just added $3.8 trillion to the debt, but that's okay. He's our guy. Uh, the truth of the matter is, I think that the closer we come to November, I think the more Trump's going to be feeling a lot of pressure, especially if it looks like a blue tsunami coming. And I'm sure guys have heard me say this before, but what I want is to beat them so bad they'll be screaming for mommy. They were expecting a blue wave and got a blue tsunami. So that's kind of the object of the game here is a blue tsunami. And guys, you know, it's the only way, or it may not be the only way, but it's the best way I can think of to make people realize that Trump was stealing something, is to make this too big to rig. And that might be one of those corny things, but the bigger the landslide, the better. And let's show who has a mandate. Just because you want 50.1% doesn't mean you have a mandate. It means you squeaked by, or you probably stole something along the way if it's Trump. Uh, but the point of the matter is that as time goes on, time is working against Trump, and he's getting older and more feeble every day. And don't forget, every day it seems like Democrats grow a little stronger, a little stronger. And what if we were lucky enough to catch, or not lucky enough? Well, what if we were lucky enough and worked hard enough to capture the House and Senate? I'm going to tell you, with 60 votes in the Senate and a majority in the House, there's nothing or not much you can't do. And I think the public pressure, the pressure will be on Trump will be just unbearable. I mean, he's always had a compliant, or not. I mean, Pelosi and Schumer weren't exactly friendly to him. Uh, but he's just, and don't forget, he's reasoning with his 80-year-old brain. And does anybody realistically think that Trump can negotiate with President Xi, President Putin, uh, my dog Augie? I think my dog Augie would make out better than Trump would with debating those guys. So keep in mind, guys, the Russia deal has now become the China deal, despite evidence to the contrary. And just for the heck of it, I hope you guys get a chance to zero in on any given objective analysis, because it was just, I mean, the guy just lies on TV. to God knows, I have no idea how many people watched or listened, but and I mean this is from the White House, the official seat of the executive of the United States. And I don't know how much clearer the picture needs to be. They're bad guys who have done harmful things to society. Why are we losing our edge in AI research to China? Well, because you quit funding it, you so and so. We're just going down. If you think we're the hottest country in the world and everybody loves us, you really are delusional. And I've held this position a while, that people that believe in next election rigging and denialism, all that, not only are they delusional, but they're dumbasses. And they're delusional because they accept this fantasy world that doesn't exist. And what makes them a real dumbass on top of that is there's evidence to prove the point, and it's not acknowledged. And why is it not acknowledged? Because Trump says it's fake. And keep in mind, Trump would say his birth certificate was fake if it favored him. So, guys, we've already suffered through. You've suffered through me. You suffered through Psycho Donald, even though I kind of like that. And just to go out on a patriotic note, this is something I did for July 4th, and let's play that before we say goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yankee Doodle.
How's that for unparalleled musicianship for July 4th? Excuse me, I had done I want to do something kind of patriotic. So I recorded Yankee Doodle and the Star Spangled Banner. And, you know, July 4th is, kind of a bittersweet day for lots of reasons. Uh, but, sometimes you really want to put the extra effort out to try to be a positive person and to enjoy things a little bit. And for that reason, it just, I decided on Yankee Doodle and the Star Spangled Banner. So, guys, on that cheerful note, I'm going to sign off. My throat's starting to go again. I've got to get past this hour mark. I tried to, but maybe we'll get a few call-ins and take some of the pressure off the old vocal cords. Oh, but that reminds me that maybe, just maybe, I can do something to make those vocal cords feel just a little better. Uh, could it be a nice little sip of kind of buttery rum, just soothing your throat as it goes down? I think it could be. And guys, if I think it could be, then it is. So much thanks again for hanging with us. It's been another great week. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. This is your somewhat semi-savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. Wishing everybody a super weekend. Take care. Stay well, guys, and we'll check in with you Monday. Come and see us at noontime, and we will chat then. And what is it we always say about this time?